When I was in high school, I fell in love with colored pencils. I was obsessed. I went to college and ignored every painting course and only wanted to work in colored pencils. And I got good using them. Like, really good. Eventually, I started to get professional work doing covers for Star Trek and Mortal Kombat comics. I even did a children's book with my wife, all using colored pencils. By the time I was 30 though, I got bored with them, and I haven't really used them much since. But I'm constantly asked to do a video on colored pencils. So let's break out the old Prisma Colors and see what we can do with them. And yes, I do own a store display for my colored pencils. I worked at an art store that went out of business when I was in college, and this is how old this is. Prismacolor was owned by a company called Barrel. Barrel got bought out 30 years ago. Now, colored pencils don't go bad, so my colored pencils are fine, but I have this 72 pack of new colored pencils that I wanted to try out, so we're gonna use that. So the first thing you wanna do is get good paper. I like Bristol paper because it's thick and it's smooth. Now, you can use anything. You can use copy paper, but I like the Bristol paper because I make a lot of mistakes, I erase a lot, and therefore I just need something that's gonna be able to handle all of my mistakes. Because I make a lot, and I'm sure you will too, because we're human. So my wife Donna went to go see Pink with a friend of hers last year, and ever since then, that's all she's talking about is pink this and pink that. So for this demonstration, I'm gonna draw pink because I love my wife and I know it'll make her happy. Now for my underdrawing, I'm using a 4H pencil, but you can use any pencil. It could be a number 2, it doesn't really matter. But you're gonna wanna make sure that you clean it up before you start working with your colored pencils, because once you put the colored pencils on top of it, you can't get rid of those lines. Okay, finally to the colored pencil part. I usually start off with just trying to get a basic baseline color. So in this case, just kind of a peachy Caucasian skin color. And I'm not gonna push down too hard, I'm just trying to cover all of the area where there's gonna be skin. And the next step is kind of more of a preference, and this is, I like to do the eyes first. I don't know why, if I can get the eyes right, then I feel like the rest of the piece is gonna be okay. And I'm doing that with a black colored pencil because the blackest blacks and the whitest whites are the most contrast, and that's where your eyes are gonna go. And I usually like the viewer's eyes to go to the subject's eyes. And her eyes looked a little like a bluish green, so I kind of made them that. And for the whites of the eyes, I always add some color to it because you don't want it to be too white. So I add a little bit of lavender and a little bit of gray to it. And then I blended that with a white colored pencil. So now I'm gonna start coming in with more colors into the skin, and I'm gonna start working on the shadow areas, the areas that are gonna be the darker areas. And if you notice, I'm still keeping my pressure really light. I'm not pushing down very hard. It's not time to blend yet. We're just laying in some colors. The skin always has more than one color. It's gonna have blues and purples and pinks and greens, and we wanna sprinkle all of that in now. It's blending time, and I'm gonna use a yellow ochre pencil right now just to give her skin color a little bit more warmth. And you can see I'm pressing really hard, like I'm mushing these colors together. Prismacolors are made of like a waxy material, and I'm just essentially kind of just smushing them together by pushing down really hard. You can see I'm pushing down so hard, I'm breaking the pencil lead. And this is why colored pencils are so expensive to make art with. You go through a lot of colored pencils if you do this kind of technique, but I like it because you get some really wonderful smooth blending if you do it this way. Prismacolors are really best for photorealism. I mean, that's really, in my experience, it's the thing that they're best at. So hopefully you could see that I'm adding a little bit more contrast, I'm adding a little bit more color in the shadow areas, and I'm pushing hard now. I'm at the point now where everything I do is kind of pushing hard to blend it. So all of the colors are gonna blend together. I keep coming in with a warmer pinks and reds and some cool purples and blues and blending them and constantly blending them and blending them and blending them. If you don't have calluses or your wrist isn't sore by the end of this, then you're probably not pushing down hard enough. The lighter colors especially have to be pushed down so much more, which means they break a lot more. And you can see all of the little chips and little pieces of colored pencil that is sitting on top of the art. And it helps to have a soft brush that you can use to brush away the little chips of colored pencils. You don't want to use your hand because that's going to smudge it. So get a very soft brush, like something you would use for blush, for makeup or something. Now for me, the downsides of colored pencils are there's no surprises with it. There's nothing really artsy to it. Not like watercolors or acrylics or gouache or other kind of mediums. What you see is what you get. You push down, you get those colors to blend, and it's exactly like that. It doesn't spread. It doesn't have any kind of real texture to it. So in that way, it does get a little boring after, well, for me, it took me 15, 20 years to get bored of it. I really loved colored pencils, but after a while, it loses a little bit of its luster, and it is a very expensive medium. And it's very time consuming because they really only come in one size. There's no larger brushes. You can't grab a large brush and fill up a large space. You're constantly working with that pencil point. And the brand of colored pencils that you buy definitely makes a difference too. I've used everything from Crayola colored pencils all the way up to Caran d'Ache colored pencils, which are absolutely wonderful to use, but they're just super duper expensive. Okay, so for the hair, I'm just gonna go with just a basic pink, and if you remember, I'm just filling in very loosely. You see, I'm not trying to cover, I'm not pushing down hard, I'm just getting the base coat of pink down. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the jacket, just laying out some basic colors. And it's at this point that I realized I forgot her ear, so I'm just gonna draw in the basic shapes of that and then get bored and go back to the hair. And just like with the skin, I'm coming in now with the darker shadow color, we'll call it. And apparently I got bored of the hair and went back to the ear again. So we're gonna finish up this ear. Okay, back to the hair now. I'm gonna blend the part that's gonna be a little more in shadow with lavender, and then the rest of it I'm going to blend with the original pink. And now I'm going to define some of the highlights with a lighter pink and then finish off with whites to really make it pop. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of purples and burgundies to define the hair shapes a little more. And I could spend hours and hours doing this, but this is just a 90-minute demo that I did live this morning, so it's very, very quick. But you can kind of see where it's going, I hope. And with the hair done, I'm gonna go in with a background color. I'm gonna use a teal color, and I'm just gonna push down a little heavier around the edges of the subject and a little lighter outside because of a trick that I'm gonna show you that I really like. Okay, get an alcohol marker, preferably something close to the color that you wanna use for the background, and you're gonna use the broad chisel edge of the marker to blend the colors. I don't know what it is, it's something about the alcohol from the marker seems to blend with the wax of the colored pencil. The two go together like peanut butter and chocolate. I just love blending the two together. And that's it. That's pretty much everything I know about colored pencils. This was just a 90-minute demo. If I was doing this professionally, I probably would have spent at least 10 hours on this, and I would have really blended the colors really, really well. For those of you who have been asking me to make this video, I hope this has answered some of the questions that you've had. I hope it answered all of them, but hopefully I answered at least some of them. And if there are any more questions about this or anything else, I'd be happy to help. Just leave me a comment, and thank you again for watching, and I hope this helps.